So the FDA holds every medical device manufacturer to the same standard. There's no grace just because you're a smaller company or if you're the largest company. The expectation is that everybody meets a certain threshold. And because the medical device industry is driven through inorganic growth, meaning M&A is really the mechanism through which a lot of smart startups and smaller businesses ultimately expect to exit, there's an expectation that as they fold into the larger ethos, if you have some harmony and security, it'll position you better. So what I mean by that is when you have a resource-constrained startup and you need to demonstrate security has been considered, you have to be smart and you have to be efficient. And there are smart architecture decisions, there's prioritization of security features, and there's knowing exactly what your business risk is so that you can precisely determine what is a nice to have and what is a need to have when it comes to security. Yeah, so ultimately, any device maker needs to build trust with their customers, partners, and potential exit opportunities. If you don't get through the regulator, your customers never get the chance to be delighted by whatever innovation you have. And you'll never hit a revenue number that then makes you interesting as a target for acquisition. Even more than that, though, when valuation of a company comes into play, it used to be that it was kind of this one-off interesting lawyer or insurance might ask a question or two, and you could pretty much get away with saying that you considered security and found it not to be a risk. What we find more now is that there are many detailed technical legal assessments that occur, and that in cybersecurity insurance is assessed as part of M&A. In particular, meaning, hey, if I take on this new company and they have a huge cybersecurity risk, am I willing to pay as much as I would have before? And most companies now have very mature risk management assessments, and they can very clearly articulate what that calculation is and why they will pay less for a startup or company that they're trying to acquire that does not have a good security posture. So the way to use this as an advantage, I would say, is to not only meet the bare minimum of what is required to get your device through the door, but being intentional about how that security marries to business value. Whether it's through a novel business model, whether it's through new clinical functionality, whether it's through reducing the harm that could happen to a patient as a result of secure capabilities. And knowing how to tie security to business value help in the acquisition conversations to really be able to demonstrate what the value of the investment of security is for your specific product. So when a target company is being acquired, there are a variety of things that get assessed. Things from the maturity of a quality management system to the FDA responses to submissions. And I think when a target is being assessed, there's kind of a specific set of expectations that are in place. And those are directly derived from industry norms. So this includes how mature is your quality management system in terms of documentation to support security over the life cycle of the device. That means more than just at the point in time when the device goes to the regulator, but how once these are out in the field, how are they maintained? How are they assessed? How are they supported? I think one of the second major criteria that's assessed is how many vulnerabilities have both been identified as well as actioned by the device maker. The probability of any piece of software having no vulnerabilities over its lifetime is nearly zero. So the expectation is that there is some sort of vulnerability that's occurred on your device. The manufacturer has a robust and mature way of assessing it. And in that assessment process, they were able to conclude whatever the appropriate action should be and whatever the acquirer's expectations are of that risk assessment process should be neatly aligned with that judgment as well. I think the third major area of consideration when under M&A is going to be what is the liability exposure. So that means if I am collecting data on my device that happens to have 9 digits and look a lot like somebody's social security number or personal identification number, that creates a whole new set of risk. Does it have to be that identifier that's used on the device data? Maybe, maybe not. But there's calculus that is done to say, hey, the types of data living on this device and part of my ecosystem, if I'm introducing a whole new world that is super risky and potentially causes issues without any additional clinical value, that calculus becomes pretty obvious in terms of it not necessarily being a risk that wants to be taken on. The last core criteria I would suggest is the FDA or any regulator's mature review of devices is not just at a point in time. What happens with every update in some capacity is some assessment to say, Are your procedures still in place? Are your protocols such that you could truly assess the security of your device over its lifetime and make good decisions about how you go forward? A lot of startups have their device and then they say, hey, next gen, we're going to add a bunch of connectivity that's going to create new clinical features. That in between, before the next gen is truly out, can often be when an M&A activity occurs, which means whatever the next gen plan is, if it does not account for security sufficiently, the potential acquirer may say, there's way too much risk in this. And even if the next gen clinical capability is super valuable, the fact that there hasn't been security considered means I may have to re-architect a lot of the operations, and I lose a lot of the value that could have been realized in that M&A transaction. The consideration of cybersecurity in an M&A activity has been increasingly evident, not just in healthcare, but across all industries. Therefore, for medical devices in the industry that most often grows inorganically, it is to a startup's advantage to truly prioritize security considerations in alignment with business value as they go forward.